Hey, hi, hello everyone. It's your favorite cartoon hedgehog back with another video. It's Tuesday, and that means it's Tag Tuesday. And I was tagged by the person who saddled me, christened me with this title of YouTube's cartoon hedgehog, Joe Spivey. He tagged me in the Great Gatsby 100th year tag, which is a tag that's been floating around BookTube for a little while. I watched a couple of people do it. I didn't think I was going to do it myself, but then Joe tagged me and I started to take the question seriously, and I realized it's a really good tag. And it's a really fun tag. It's only 5 questions, though, which is half the usual affair of tags that go around here on BookTube. So I will try to maybe inflate my answers a little bit, which shouldn't be too hard for me. I meant to post a very short video yesterday, and then eventually it ballooned out into a half of an hour long video in which my neck turned red because I ranted and raved for so long. So I'm happy on this Tuesday to make a lighter video, a video that includes less rants and a video that is a little bit easier on the ears and on the eyes as well, because your host won't flush a weird shade of crimson red, hopefully. This tag was created by 3 people, so it's a joint effort, as all the best tags are. Sherri over at Books and Radio Plays, Alan over at Big Hard Books, and Greg over at Another Bibliophile Reads. So thank you for Joe and tagging me. Thank you for the creators for creating it. And this is a tag all about The Great Gatsby. And I believe the occasion is that The Great Gatsby turns 100 years old. I'm assuming that is the case from the name of the tag. But the first question is, do you like parties? Name a book with a big or small party in it. Yes, I do like parties. I think that liking parties is actually important. It's an underrated character trait. If you think that you don't like parties, maybe it's because you haven't found the right party. There are different types of parties for different people, and I think it's important that you find the right party for you. I personally love parties. It just has to be the right one, and that is entirely dependent on the people that are involved. I wish I could be a little bit more amenable to all different types of parties, but I usually have the most fun at parties when I know everyone there and I like everyone there. It's just a little thing about me. But I think it's important. There is no badge of sophistication that you earn by being bad at parties or not fun at parties. Unfortunately, interfacing with people, being friendly with people, being conversant with people, conversational with people is important. And there's no really real way to get around that. So I've put forth the effort to try and be as fun and cordial as parties as possible, and it's something that I've found to be really enjoyable when I'm at the right one. But anyway, so yes, I do like parties. And then the book that I was thinking of that featured a party is actually Don DeLillo's Underworld. Believe it or not, this book, which prominently features the Twin Towers on the front of it, features, I think, the most impressive piece of this book, the most impressive sequence in this book, or at least the one that I remember the most vividly, is a party scene. It's a party scene that features the richest and wealthiest and most powerful people in the United States. They're having some sort of weird ball. I think it is masquerading as some kind of fundraiser or something like that. But basically, it's for rich people to rub shoulders with each other in some sort of like opulent ballroom setting. But I remember as these rich people are entering into the ballroom, there are these protesters outside of it. And these protesters are, protesting wealth inequality, any of the things that people protest when a bunch of rich people get together, crimes against humanity, that type of thing, things that decent people usually get hung up about. But these protesters are outside of this ballroom or whatever, and they're wearing, from what I remember, masks of crying babies. They're wearing these crying baby masks. And of course, they get very roughly treated, and these rich people sort of blow past them as fast as possible. But eventually, these protesters make their way. They infiltrate into the party. And then I believe they take their masks off and do some sort of weird interpretive dance in front of everyone that sort of is spellbinding in a weird sort of mystical way. And the ringleader, I believe, is some woman who pulls the main character of the novel, or at least this sequence, aside, and she says something like, I will stick my tongue so far down your throat it'll pierce your heart, or something crazy like that. It's a really wild scene, but it's really, really good, I thought. And it's, I have to admit, out of a novel that, clocks in at about 900 pages or so, a lot of it featured things that I did not remember or do not actively remember. That scene I do remember. I do remember that scene. And I do remember reading that and being like, wow, that was extremely cool. So that's a party scene that jumped out to me when I was thinking over books that feature party scenes. Number 2 is what would you do to get the love of your life back? Name a book where a lost love is the center of the story. And they say, not a romance, that is too easy. Well, I'm not going to talk about my love life on this channel, unfortunately, at least for right now. It is too depressing. It is far too depressing, and I made this channel as an opportunity to escape the horrible realities of things like my love life. So I'm not going to be talking about that. But I did recently read All the King's Men, and All the King's Men is very much not a romance in any way, but it does feature a very moving, very touching, very well realized, I think, romance, plotline, subplot, whatever, that is central to the story. It is not insignificant. A very moving, very sweet, very powerful chapter is dedicated to the main character's first love, and it is, wow, is it good. I thought it was great. I thought it was superb. One of my favorite things about the book. So that's what came to my mind when I thought of a book that features a lost love. Number 3 is Nick was a character in the story and the narrator. He really puts you into the picture. Who is your favorite narrator? Well, there's only one answer to this, I think, for who is my favorite narrator. And that is Homer. Nobody is better than Homer. Homer is the greatest narrator of all time. He's the greatest storyteller of all time. And the Homeric metaphors, if you've ever been subjected in one way or another to studying Homer, are a treat every time when he pulls out these wonderfully illustrative metaphors. And he's so blunt about it. He's so blunt about saying, he's not trying to work a metaphor subtly into the narrative. He stops the narrative in its tracks and goes, think about this. And then paints this metaphorical picture and then goes, okay, now that you're thinking about that, let's cut back to the story. And it's beautiful, and it is so charming every time he does it. And it's like, it is worth highlighting every time. It is worth circling every time he does it, and it's worth just going back specifically to those metaphors. Specifically to the metaphor of when Hector, at the end of Book 12, lifts that massive rock on his shoulder and throws it at the Achaean rampart. And he's, imbued with the power of Zeus, and his eyes are glowing, and there are sparks flying off of his armor. And Homer says that he lifts this rock as a shepherd would lift the fleeces of his sheep. The fleeces of his sheep are light, and he can throw them on his shoulders. And this rock that 12 men couldn't have picked up, Hector just picks up like it's as light as one of those fleeces, like he's a shepherd, and he's throwing one of those fleeces on his shoulder and then throws it at the Achaean rampart. It's just incredible. They're just incredible. The Homeric metaphors are incredible. The way he obviously tells the story is incredible. I don't want to indulge myself too much in talking in you know, in talking in syrupy terms about how great the Iliad is. You should know how great the Iliad is, but the Iliad really is that great. And the way that Homer writes and or tells this story is the best thing I've ever read. Is the best thing. He's the greatest narrator. A close second would be Ishmael. Ishmael probably answers the question a little bit more directly because Ishmael is in the story, but in a very interesting way because he moves in and out of the story in a fascinating way. So that's a close second. But number one is and will always be Homer for me. Okay, number 4 is, what is some advice given to you in your younger and more vulnerable years that you've been turning over in your mind ever since? I couldn't really think of any advice that I got in my younger, more formative years. The greatest piece of advice that I've ever received has been to be needed. If you are needed by somebody or something, by just one person, maybe one animal even, just one thing, if one thing needs you, then you do not have time you do not have time for an existential crisis. You don't have time to be your usual self-obsessed self, at least me. So I have always taken that to heart. To be needed by at least one person is important. And I'll leave it there. But yeah, that's the greatest piece of advice I've ever gotten, just in general. And then number 5 is, Tom Buchanan is not a good man, but it is done in a very subtle manner. Name a book that the character is not obviously bad, but as you get to know him, he is very, very bad. Well, the first and most obvious answer that I would have gone with a couple of weeks ago would have been The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, because this whole book is about a person and their descent, and the fact that as you get to know them, you realize that they're one of the most vain, shallow, horrible people that you've ever read, weirdly enticing in a strange way, but ultimately just a terrible, terrible person. But then I recently read The Monk by Matthew Lewis, and this is the ultimate, the ultimate character assassination if I've ever read one. The monk, the eponymous monk here, is as cartoonishly evil as I am cartoonishly hedgehoggy. According apparently to Joe Spivey. He just becomes the most cartoonishly evil person that I've ever read as the novel progresses, and it's fascinating. It is so entertaining, and so there's so many twists and turns. I mean, the way that Matthew Lewis writes a book, basically this entire book is a study in the downfall of this character, and you don't even realize it at the time. He plays this very subtle role at the beginning, and you go, oh, who's that? And you don't even realize how important this character is going to be, and you never, at least I never saw in a million years how terrible this guy was going to end up by the end of the book. He ends up being the ultimate creep, the ultimate predator, and it's amazing. It's an amazing read. It was so much fun to read this. I was so enthralled as I was reading it, and yeah. So that is my answer, and I think I would put The Monk up against almost anything for a book that answers that question. Of a character who, as you get to know them, becomes worse and worse and worse and worse. But anyway, as is usual on BookTube, it's at the end of answering the questions that you tag other people. I thought I would tag 2 people that I've come across recently who are brand new to BookTube. I don't know if either one of them has any interest in doing a tag, but if they are, they should consider themselves tagged. The first is Ian Schuster, I believe. Ian Schuster, who just started his channel, and I think he's killing it. I think he's doing a great job, and if he wants to do a tag, here's a tag he can do. And then the other one is As I Lay Reading. I believe is her handle. She only has one video on BookTube, and if she's looking to make another one, she could make a tag video, because I think this is a lot of fun, and maybe other people will enjoy answering these questions as well. Obviously, if you're watching this video and you think of these questions as being interesting and you want to participate, feel free, consider yourself tagged. And that'll be it for me today. I'm glad I was able to make a little bit of a lighter video today, considering how off the rails I was yesterday. But I did get a lot of great responses, I do have to say. I was actually a couple of people reached out to me through email and sent some really, really great and insightful messages to me. So that was that made it worth it at the end of the day. So it's some exciting things are coming up too, because it's the end of the month, and that means that I get to recap everything that I read this month, and then I also get to project forward and make a TBR video for next month, which I'm really, really looking forward to. I had a lot of fun doing that for this month, April. I'm really looking forward to doing that soon this week for May, and I'll stop talking. I'll leave it there. Thank you, BookTube.